Thanks for watching a Got Nitro online instructional video. Today we're working on the Nuova Faor Race Nitro, and we're going to be installing the standard servos. The servos we're using are the Futaba S3004. Using a standard servo, there's not enough room in between the frames to install without having to remove some bolts, which I'm going to show you how to do in a few minutes. If you purchase the low profile servos, they will fit inside of here because they're smaller here in the width, and they'll fit in between the frames. You'll still have some trouble getting to the lower bolt mounts in the bottom of the servo in both cases. So we really do strongly recommend that you do what I'm going to show you here in the next few minutes to make this installation a breeze and easy to understand. The first thing that we recommend that you do on the Nitro version, the Race, is removing the steering shock, and that's just simply removing the screw in the top of the top triple tree. We'll remove that and set this off to the side. Then we're going to remove this body mount, and you simply do that just by unscrewing it. Now we have clear access to this bolt, and this one. First bolt we're going to remove, though, is this guy up here, the top body mount. Underneath there is a spring. So when you remove this bolt on the top, be very careful to hold this tight so that it doesn't bounce off and you lose the spring. Alright, we have the back 2.5 millimeter nut removed. We're going to continue to unscrew the screw, pressing down on the top, as you can see here. Keep tension on that spring so the screw's easy to get out. I think it's ready to come now. More. Got to keep a lot of tension on this top screw or the top body mount to get this guy off. We're just about there. This one's being a little stubborn. It looks like it wants to be screwed all the way out. So keeping tension on the top body mount, release it slowly. Remove the top body mount. Remove the spring. Now we're clear to take our next screws out, which are these ones here. We'll start with this one. And I unscrew it so that you can feel that the nut is now loose. Lean it a little bit to grab the nut so you don't lose it. Now we're going to do the next one. Same thing there again. I feel the nut is loose and I pull it off. Set it aside. Now we're going to do the top one. Same thing there again, lean it, grab the nut, we're there. Now, you'll also notice the inside frame spacer right in here, our little orange spacer. We're going to go ahead and continue to unscrew our first screw here, realizing that once we pull the screw out, that spacer may fall or be still lodged in the frame, but loosely, so we want to keep an eye that we don't lose that. Now we'll move to the next one. I believe we're loose enough there. Same thing there. There's a spacer also inside of that screw. And then now we're going to do the top one. These are a 4mm bolt, by the way, and 4mm nylocks. Alright, now we have this one totally loose. We continue to unscrew it out. And we're there. There's one of our little spacers. We're going to take off the front stand. Alright, so now basically what we have done is we've allowed more clearance to install our servos by simply moving the servo, carbon fiber servo trays up so that we have easy access. So our throttle servo will install this way, and then when we go over to install our steering servo, it installs upside down this way. So we're going to go ahead, and what I like to do is run the wire inside of the frame and push it through, keeping the wire intact on the inside. There you can see we have it fully set into place, and I'm now going to go ahead and use our little packet of goodies that come with our servo for the rubber mounts and then the bolts that come with your bike to install the servo. This gets us a great start. And once I install the servos, I'll show you our next step. Now that we have the 3 frame screws removed, we can now simply remove the whole front fork assembly. Just wiggle a little bit, pull the cable through the cable notch housing, and just set that off to the side. Now what I like to do before I do the servos is I remove the servo ball linkage that is on the Pico engine, and there's just a 2mm set screw in the bottom which I access through the frame. I loosen it, then I grab my throttle linkage, attach the black ball, and screw it down to approximately halfway. Then it's much easier. The ball fitting on the Pico piece, as you can see, is a very tight fit. So by doing this, it enables us to have it out so that we can easily install the ball to the throttle linkage and then attach it back on the Pico engine. So now we have attached the ball linkage to the Pico engine, and we have a rod coming up that will attach to our linkage once we get the servo installed. But having the servo out of the way while you install that ball linkage is the way to go. And then all I did is, when I have the ball linkage, to set it on a flat surface and you can take a pair of pliers and just squeeze the plastic ball against that aluminum Pico fitting, and they just pop together. Okay, we have the throttle and servo installed now, and the only thing that is holding this upper carriage together is the rubber exhaust coupler here, and you can just simply pull that apart to raise this up so that you're able to access the lower mounting screws for your servo. We supply these. Nuova Faor doesn't supply any mounting hardware whatsoever, but we supply these 2.5 millimeter black nylocks with the washers and the bolts, and you can see we use the washers on the top and the bottom and the outside, and the rubber grommets, one goes in the top and one goes in the bottom. We tighten the screws just so you're just start pressing down on the rubber grommet, starting to give it some tension, and that's tight enough. So we have the throttle servo completely installed now. Now we're going to go ahead and install the steering servo. Now we're ready to install the steering servo. And I want to make sure that we use the correct pieces when installing the servos. And with the Futaba 3004, they come with the rubber grommets, where one rubber grommet goes on the back of the servo mounting, and one goes on the front. Just like so. Then, with the supplied mounting screws in your kit, you use the 2.5 Allen head along with the supplied washer, and then the little eyelets here that come with your servo. And I just simply set that on there like that. So your setup going through the servo will look like this. You just simply pop it through. Hemostats are a great tool. I use it for holding the 2.5 millimeter nut. Go ahead and tighten up the screw. And once again, we tighten up so we just get some good tension pushing down on the rubber grommets. Once you see they're squeezed together and a little bit of an indent, stop there. Grab my next screw, washer, the eyelet, put into the top. Grab our 3 millimeter nut, along with our hemostats. Once again, we tighten down the 2.5 Allen head until tension is pressing down on the rubber grommets. You can see how much tension I have there. This other one needs to be tightened up a little bit more. Perfect. Now we go ahead and install the bottom set, and with this removed from the exhaust coupling, as you can see, it's real easy to access the bottom screws. Now we have the steering servo installed right here, and I wanted to show you how I routed the wire for the servos, where it keeps inside so that everything is nice and neat. You can do it however you want, but we found this to be a good way to keep the wires clean and neat as they travel their way back to the receiver, kind of like that. So now it's just a matter of reinstalling the front end. You just take your end of your brake cable, put it through the housing, I grab it on the other end so I can help pull it through. Slide the whole front end assembly back into place. Just like that. And now we're going to go ahead and I install the bottom bolt first, which is the longer one, and then the next bolt, which will go through here, and then of course the top bolt. So now we have the front fork assembly reinstalled. Don't forget to put our spacers in when you put the bolts through. There's two spacers there that probably came out when you remove the front fork assembly. Now, installing the spring, again with the top body mount, there's a little nub inside of the steering post here that the spring goes off over. And you notice next to that is an Allen head screw. And the more you tighten that down, the more rake you have, which is usually less response on the steering. So if you're new to the RC motorcycles, you may want to have more rake, so that you would screw that down more so that your steering isn't quite as sensitive. And then as you become more proficient in your driving of your new RC bike, you can give yourself the correct rake for racing, which is where Nuova Faor sets it. So once again, we grab our screw and our washer, put our spring on, we grab our top body mount, we force it down with our hand, grab the washer and the bolt that goes through this, and simply squash it down between the frames. It takes quite a bit of tension to push it down. And then simply shove. That's how it goes. I'm going to set it down on my lap so it's easy to access, but just push this all the way down and shove the screw through and put the nut on, and we're ready to go. Okay, so we finished our steering servo installation, and then we took one of the star servo fittings that comes with your servo, and we just cut off the three ends and dremeled the side for the sharp edges, make it fit nice. And then the 3mm screw goes completely through with the 3mm nut on the back, and we provide that in the kit as well. And then you just simply align the front wheel, push this back onto the spleen of the servo, put your screw back in, there may need to be some final trimming on the radio to center the steering from here, but basically that completes our steering servo setup. And once again, see how we have all the wires nicely on the inside of the frame so that we can tuck them down out of the way of any moving parts when we install the receiver. on the left-hand side of the bike. The receiver will be installed here. Next, we're going to go ahead and install the throttle servo setup for the throttle and the Pico engine, and then for the rear brake and the front brake. And we're going to go ahead and prepare that servo horn for that installation. Welcome back to our instructional video. We now have the throttle, servo horn, and the front and the rear brake setup all done. I'll activate, and then of course the reverse. Batteries are running low on my receiver. And with this Nova Race Nitro setup, we've gone ahead and used the DX3S with the telemetry settings. You can see the speed setting we have here. Everything's plugged in to the receiver. Wires all nicely inlaid and out of the way. Our steering servo. Just giving you a good look at the bike once it's all set up and ready for its maiden voyage. Thanks for watching.